Welcome back to the course. This is Professor Martínez-Davila, and today we're going to continue on with some essential strategies for working on your transcriptions. We'll be working off a small section from the Deciphering Secrets Paleography Manual, which you can find online at the Coursera website. So you can see I have opened up the main document, and we're going to scroll just to our table of contents. This is where we're going to be working. We're going to be working in Part 5, Essential Transcription Considerations and Strategies, which is on page 15. All right, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to page 15, but if you wish, close your eyes because I don't want you to get overly motion sick. And we are here. Welcome to page 15. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller just so you can see the page numbers and you know where we are. So page 15 at 50. So essentially what we know is that we're working with a 19th century transcription of the original actas. So it is quite a bit more readable than the original. But it still has some peculiarities, and we wanted to point out a couple of these things to you so that you can appreciate what the manuscripts look like before we get started. The first thing is this issue of folios, and what does it mean for a manuscript to be foliated? So you can see manuscripts were foliated. I'm going to start right there. Manuscripts were foliated, which simply means that pages were numbered according to their front side and opposite side. So if you see a folio with a number in the upper right-hand corner, so you can see here the arrow pointing to folio 225, we call this folio directo. The next image we are using photographs of these manuscripts, is the other side of the folio. And it does not have a number in the upper right-hand corner. So if you were to turn this page over, you would not see 226. Now, they only number one side of the page. So this would be folio 225 on one side, which is recto. And as you turned it over on the reverse side, we call verso. So 225R or recto, 225R or 225 recto. And then the opposite side would be 225V or 225V verso. Now, in some of the exercises, you will see some of the page numbers or these folio numbers, but in the actual transcription project, we have eliminated the page numbers because we're trying to protect the intellectual property of the Diocese of Plasencia. We would prefer and strongly encourage you not to download and keep images from the manuscript because they are the property of the diocese. And then two, we've cut up the manuscript into snippets or small pieces so that it's hard to figure out where pieces came from. So that maybe an unscrupulous person would not reassemble the manuscript and reproduce it. So help us respect this intellectual property. Some other considerations. Where's the punctuation in this document? Well, what we find is there's very few pieces of punctuation in the original 15th century manuscript, and thus it's not going to appear in the 19th century transcription we're working at. We do not see a lot of punctuation in medieval documents. In essence, a lot of times it seems like sentences run on forever and ever. What about hyphens? Well, we do know hyphens were used by scribes, and hyphens, this is the key point, hyphens do not follow a special syllabic rule. And basically what they're trying to do is just fill the whole line up. So like you see how I'm tracing this whole line. They want to fill up this whole piece of paper, and then they'll hyphenate to the next line. And that's just to kind of prepare to save space on the paper. Abbreviations, were they common? Absolutely yes, and you've seen some of those abbreviations. What about accents? Sometimes you'll see accents, yes. Sometimes you won't. So you can see an A with an accent appearing, and sometimes it will only show as an A. In our transcriptions, we are going to go ahead and just record A's. You can put the accent on there, but it's not necessary. Lastly, when we start to do our transcriptions, one of the issues will come up is how do you deal with line breaks? So as you're reading through something and there's a line stoppage here, do you just keep on typing? And what we're going to tell you to do is we're going to ask you to do a hard line break, or hitting return or enter on your computer keyboard. So just record the text as you see it. So here are some strategies for working through the manuscripts. And these are just on page 17, you will find the list of the strategies. And you can read those quickly, but I'm not going to read these directly to you because we're going to go ahead and employ them right away. In essence, what we're trying to do is we want you to develop skills that will help you work through more challenging documents in the future. The idea is that, sometimes you can actually be quite lazy about transcription. And that is, sometimes you'll encounter a hand, like we would describe, the hand of the scribe, that is very readable to our eye. And you might unconsciously transcribe it with little effort or thinking. Well, that's not so good in some ways because you're not going through the deliberate steps of working through the document. And those deliberate steps will save you in the future when you come across a document that you're just completely baffled by. So let's go and scroll on down to page 18 and continue to work through some transcriptions. And I'm going to employ the strategies that I just described. So below you can see right here, this is an example of how we'll be transcribing our manuscripts. Below is a clipping from a folio from the manuscript. You can see that the page number has been eliminated. This is still page 225 recto from above. And you can see that this is a photograph, and that's why you have some curvature of the picture or the page. So the first thing you want to do, the first strategy, is to scan the document. So visually scan the document. Scan the clipping at least once. This will help your eyes become accustomed to how the scribe spaces letters and words. In essence, you'll be becoming familiar with their writing style. It's just like, if you have a friend's handwriting that is very unusual, you want to kind of often reread the letter many times to get it right. To like, what is this word? I have no idea what they mean. So this first one we can see, and I'm just trying to show you this strategy, is just literally with your eye, scan across, look at the letters, oh, there's a Y there, but just read across. You don't even have to read anything, but just get accustomed with the letters, the way the scribe is writing, where they're stopping, and you want to do that several times. And I'm just going to scroll up to the top real quick here. So you can stop the video right now, and I encourage you to do so, and then just go ahead and scan across each line in this individual selection. So go ahead and do that now. Stop your video, read it through just once, or not even read it, just look at the letters, and then when you're done, click us back on. Okay, so I hope that you have clicked back on and are continuing. So the next strategy you want to do is identify letters that are very recognizable. The idea is you need a way into the document, and the easiest way to do that is to find things that you can recognize right away. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I want this to be super readable for you. So right away, my eye is, and every eye is different, is going to be drawn to certain letters that I can just see immediately. So I can immediately see these O's. There's an O here, here's an O here, another O, another O, another O, another O. So everything circled in red is an O. Also, I can see S's right away. So circled in green, S here, there's an S here. And again, don't worry about reading the letter or the words. You're just looking for familiar shapes to kind of get yourself accustomed to the handwriting. D's. Oh, so here's D's I see right away, all circled in blue. Oh. And then lastly, just because I find R's really challenging, I've become accustomed to seeing them right away. So circled in yellow, here's an R up here, There's an R, another R, another R. Now, I've just circled some of the S's, the D's, the O's, and the R's, but the point is to kind of right away get yourself familiar with the document and find those pathways into it that'll make you a little bit more comfortable. Zoom back out here a little bit. And then again, you can see here's the S, the D, the O, and the R. So you can look at that a little bit more closely later. At the bottom, the next strategy is locate common words and start to understand the letter connections and find new letters. So what's really the next big challenge of working with a document is to appreciate how a scribe connects their letters. All of us have idiosyncrasies in terms of the way we write, and we attempt to follow rules, but over time, we develop our own kind of personal approaches to doing things. Now, they generally they track with the way we were taught, but they can be slightly different. And that's why we have so many different types of handwriting, and that's why one quote unquote hand is different from another when we're reading a scribe. So we're going to look for these common words, and I'm going to zoom back in again. So the common words that I see right away, and it's just kind of a familiarity with Spanish, but also they're just words that you might catch your eye. So here we see Santa. So I could see right away, I was like, oh, there's that S there. And then I could see A's really quick. Oh, Santa Iglesia. So this, holy church, or a sanctified church, however you want to, properly translate it. But Santa is this cognate here. And you can say, oh, okay, so now what's really wonderful is I see the word. Another word that I could see right away is I could see the D and the O, and then I know my J's have this line across the top. It's very slight right there, and it comes and swoops down. So jurisdiction, or I'm just going to say jurisdiction. And what here now we have two words that we are relatively maybe common, or ones that I feel comfortable with. And now I can see how the particular scribe connects letters. So what's important here is now to start using the document to understand itself. So I can see, when he does an S, he doesn't connect with an A. But here's how an A is written. An A goes swoops down, back up, and then heavy down. And then, this is standard cursive handwriting. Then it's going to come back up and create the N. So now I know how an A and an N are connected. Likewise, I can see how a N and a T are connected through this line there. And then we can see also, well, in some cases, maybe this particular scribe will not connect a T to an A. He may or may not, but in this case, we know that he doesn't. So in the same way, we can look at jurisdiction and see how, U's are connected to R's. So there's that little fine line coming up to create the R. Or how an R, so here's the tail of the R coming back up and connecting to the I, so very slight. But you can appreciate how letters are connected. And this is how we kind of work our way into the document and appreciate how letters are connected and see new letters that we didn't see at first. So I'm going to zoom back out again. Next thing that I would suggest is strategy 4 is recognize abbreviations. Why is this important? Well, basically, abbreviations I think can be quite baffling because you're looking for patterns naturally with your eyes, but some of these things just seem to not have a pattern at all. And you're trying to read a word, and you're trying to read this word here, and like that's got to be a word. I can't see the letters. So you want to identify these abbreviations basically to kind of like free your eyes from the struggle of understanding their unusual appearance. And so I'll circle them, and here we can see su, señoria, as that's the abbreviation that we had identified early on. You'll see dichos and things like that. Here, dicho is spelled out, D-I-C-H-O, but sometimes it's not spelled out. We just have the D, the H, and the O. But again, the point is, identify those abbreviations, mark them so that you know right away, oh, that's not something I have to worry about. That's su señoria or su señorio. That's fine. in that case. So, you eliminate those things that are challenging. Next, and we're going to come on to our next two strategies, is a strategy especially for English speakers. And it's what I call just searching for, English-Spanish cognates. To locate more letters so that you can learn more letters and connections. So fortunately, in the actas capitulares, we do not see a lot of what we would call in English false friends in the actas. Those are those Spanish and English words that appear to have similar meanings, but in actuality are very different. For example, and so my mother is a retired Spanish teacher. Hi, Mom. I'm glad you're attending class today. I'll be checking your grades later on. I hope you don't disappoint me. That's just a little note to my mom, Mary. But she was a Spanish teacher. And, one of the lovely things that teachers love to teach is these ideas of these false friends, because they're a lot of fun and they're motivating. So here, one of the words that we can think is like, in Spanish, there's this word embarazada. And you're like, it sure sounds like the word embarrassed. And so, as we know, and there's a spelling mistake here, I apologize. Embarazada means pregnant with a child in Spanish whereas in Spanish, it means embarrassed, to feel shame or to be uncomfortable. So, it's, that is not a proper cognate, and that is what we would call a false friend. But there are, in this particular document, lots of cognates that do kind of make sense. So some of the words, I'm going to zoom in on these in a second, you'll see are obligaron, which is, you can see like, that's probably obligated. Or sentencia is the Spanish word here. So I'm going to highlight it right there. And so, sentence, not like a sentence in a page, but a legal sentence. And then lastly, manera. So, manner, like a manner or a way of doing something. So from these, I'm going to zoom in now. Now we can use these cognates to help us appreciate what's going on inside the letters. So for instance, obligaron. So O-B-L-I-G-A. There's that very tight R, O-N-N. So I can use this now to identify, I know the cognate obligaron, obligate, and I can now say, what are other letters that appear in obligaron? So, there should be a B, here's the B. There's an I and an L. Here's a G, very easy to recognize. So that tells me, all right, between the G and the B, I've got to have that L and I. So I can figure out, I thought maybe that at first was a V, but no, that's an L and then an I. So this is how we use the words to help decipher the manuscript itself. We can identify these cognates, and then we start to fill in the pieces in between. So obligaron, sentencia. So again, you can see the E and the N. Let's say I see the T, but I can't see these letters in the middle. Well, then I can fill them in. So sentencia, S. And it should have an E somewhere in here. Here's an E. And then I can double check. Here's an E. Is that really an E? But sentencia, it has two E's in it. So, here's an E. Here's a second E. So I've just used the word itself to confirm how the letters are written. This is how we work through paleography, and as you can see, it can be very slow and time-consuming. Lastly, you can see manera down here. So that is that strategy of searching for those cognates to make your life a little bit easier. And the last step that I would recommend is to type or write out your transcription. So this is very self-explanatory, but by writing your transcript, it will help you figure out hard to read letters and words. So if there's something that you just cannot figure out, you can start to then work through the rest of the transcription. So I'm going to show both of these right here at the same time because you can see these different elements going on. So it says vidos y por haber y se obligaron a toda. So let's say, for instance, I was working off obligaron up here. I recognize that word. So I could see, here's the G here. Are there any other G's here? No, there are no more G's, but that doesn't help me. Okay. Well, let's see. What about O? So I'm kind of highlighting here. I'm going to use this. I'm going to go ahead and scroll in real quick and so that we can look at this. But this is how, let's say I would already had identified obligaron and I've written that out on my transcript. Well, then I would just use this to unlock the rest. So here's an O. And so, so that's what an O looks like. Okay, here's probably another O. Here's an O. Probably another O right there, another O. So this is literally just fill in the blank at this point. So, okay, great. So I'm going to keep on working off obligaron. Are there any additional B's? Here's a B. I'm going to just scan real quickly. Oh, is that a B? No, wait, it can't be a B because it's not closed. No, that's not a B. So just keep on going across. No, so I don't see any more B's. How about A's? So there's that A, obligaron A. Oh, here's an A here. Oh, this looks like an A. There's a line up here. Oh, remember, sometimes those accents will appear, sometimes they won't. Oh, that must be an A. I'm just going to work backwards. Sometimes I just read backwards because it's easier to read letters there. Oh, here's another A. A here, A here, A here, A here. Okay, so I'm unpacking these letters. All right. So that looks about all of it. Is there anything else that I can figure out from this document or this first line? I don't know. Oh, wait a second. Okay, here's a D. So here is the O. Here's an A. So, oh yeah, that starts to look like a D. Oh, that's toda. So T. So there's that little hash mark there. T-O-D-A. Toda. Oh, okay. So now I have a new word that I can work off of as a tool for figuring out the rest. So here's the D. I'm going to work on that first word. That just scares the heck out of me because I look at it and I'm like, I just don't even know what to think. But wait a second. I'd already identified the O. Here's O. Oh, here's that D. D. So D-O. Oh, there's an I. Look at that dot. Oh, yeah. See? Dot. And then a slash down. So I-D-O. So from here, I can start to work out, all right, it's a word with I-D-O in it. And then now I can use the rest of the manuscript potentially to figure out what's going on here. And we will find out that this is a V, and that is actually that little line at the end is actually an S. And again, this is where you can see how I've transcribed the individual document. And I'm going to zoom back out real quick. The important thing here in terms of the transcriptions is just to, so we say vidos y por haber y se obligaron a toda. We want to just copy the line exactly as we see it. And there's that hard line break. We start over. Sentencia de Santa Iglesia. So there we go. And then we're stopping there. But you can see these are all the line breaks. And that's essentially how we can employ these 6 individual strategies to work through a document. So I hope this is helpful for you. And then I'm hoping that you will get excited and you will move on to the next exercise, which is practicing your alphabet. You can see those there. And then practicing transcribing some of the first text. And, there's some fill in the blanks here. Abbreviations. Oh, yes. Lots of fun. Okay. So I will stop here, but I'm excited that you're getting started. All right. Have a very nice day.